The first flake of snow that landed on Tyler Ingram's weathered hand told him he needed to turn back. But stubbornness had always been both his greatest virtue and his worst vice. The December wind of 1873 howled across the Colorado plains like a wounded animal, cutting through his heavy coat as he rode toward Cannon City, still 3 miles distant. His horse, a sturdy bay mare named Clementine, struggled against drifts that grew deeper with each passing minute. Tyler had spent the better part of the afternoon checking fence lines on his ranch, a task that should have taken 2 hours but stretched into 6 when he discovered sections torn down by what looked like deliberate sabotage. Now darkness crept across the landscape, and the blizzard that the old-timers in town had predicted was proving them right. He was about to seek shelter in a grove of cottonwoods when he spotted something that made him pull Clementine to an abrupt halt. At first, he thought it was a bundle of rags caught against a snow drift near the roadside, but then the bundle moved. Tyler dismounted quickly, his boots sinking into snow that reached past his ankles. As he approached, his heart seized in his chest. A woman lay curled on her side, her lips blue, her dark hair matted with ice and snow. She wore nothing more than a thin cotton dress, completely inadequate for the brutal Colorado winter, and her feet were bare except for torn stockings. "Madam," Tyler called out, dropping to his knees beside her. "Madam, can you hear me?" Her eyelids fluttered, revealing unfocused green eyes that seemed to look through him rather than at him. She was young, maybe 22 or 23, with delicate features now pale as death. Her whole body shook with violent tremors, and when Tyler touched her arm, her skin felt like ice. "Please," she whispered, the word barely audible over the wind. "Help me." Tyler did not hesitate. He shrugged out of his heavy sheepskin coat and wrapped it around her trembling form, then scooped her into his arms. She weighed almost nothing, and he wondered when she had last eaten a proper meal. Clementine stamped nervously as Tyler approached with his burden, but the well-trained mare held steady as he somehow managed to mount while holding the woman. He settled her across his lap, cradling her against his chest, and urged Clementine into as fast a pace as the snow would allow. "Stay with me," he murmured against her hair. "My place is closer than town. Just hold on." The woman made a small sound that might have been agreement, and her head lolled against his shoulder. Tyler felt her shivering intensify, and he knew he was in a race against time. He had seen what severe cold could do to a person, had pulled more than one frozen body from the snow during his 30 years in Colorado. The fact that this woman was still alive seemed almost miraculous, and he would be damned if he let her die now. His ranch house appeared through the swirling snow like a benediction. It was a modest structure, built from sturdy pine logs with a stone chimney and a covered porch, but it had never looked more welcoming. Tyler dismounted clumsily, still holding the woman, and kicked open the front door. The interior was cold and dark, the fire in his hearth having burned down to embers hours ago. He laid the woman on his bed, the only bed in the single-room house, and immediately set about stoking the fire. Within minutes, flames roared back to life, casting dancing shadows on the walls. Tyler lit 2 oil lamps and returned to the woman. Her shivering had lessened, which worried him more than if it had increased. He knew that was a bad sign, that her body was shutting down. He needed to warm her gradually, carefully. He filled a basin with lukewarm water from the reservoir on his stove and found clean cloths. Gently, he began washing the snow and ice from her hair, her face, her hands and feet. Her feet were in terrible condition, cut and bruised, the skin dangerously pale. As he worked, Tyler studied her face. Even half frozen and unconscious, she was beautiful in a way that made his chest ache. He had lived alone for 5 years now, ever since his father died and left him the ranch. Before that, he had courted a girl in town named Sarah, but she had married a banker from Denver, someone who could give her a fine house and social standing. Tyler had buried himself in work after that, convincing himself that solitude suited him just fine. But looking at this mysterious woman, feeling the weight of her life in his hands, something shifted inside him. "Come on," he whispered, chafing her hands between his own. "Come back." Her eyelids fluttered again, and this time when her eyes opened, they focused on his face. Recognition flickered there, or perhaps just awareness that she was no longer alone in the dark and cold. "Where?" she managed to ask. "My ranch about 2 miles outside Cannon City," Tyler explained. "You are safe now. What is your name?" "Vivian," she said, her voice hoarse. "Vivian Ellis." "I am Tyler Ingram. Can you tell me what happened? How did you end up out there in the snow?" Vivian's eyes filled with tears that spilled down her temples. "The stagecoach. There were men. They stopped us, took everything. They shot the driver and the guard. The other passengers they ran. I tried to run too, but I fell, hit my head. When I woke up, everyone was gone. I started walking, trying to find help, but I got turned around in the storm." Tyler felt anger rise hot in his chest. Bandits had been plaguing the roads around Cannon City for months now, and the local sheriff seemed either unable or unwilling to do anything about it. That they would leave a woman to die in the snow filled him with a rage he had not felt in years. "You are safe now," he repeated, forcing his voice to remain calm. "Rest. We will worry about everything else later." But Vivian's eyes were already closing again, exhaustion and cold claiming her. Tyler covered her with every blanket he owned, then dragged his rocking chair close to the fire and settled in to keep watch. He would not sleep tonight. He could not while she remained in danger. Throughout the long hours of darkness, he rose frequently to check on her, to add wood to the fire, to ensure she was still breathing. Dawn came late, the sun struggling to penetrate the storm clouds that still dumped snow on the Colorado plains. Tyler made coffee and cooked a simple breakfast of eggs and bacon, the familiar routine grounding him after the strange, tense night. As the smell of food filled the small house, Vivian stirred and opened her eyes. "Good morning," Tyler said, keeping his distance so as not to startle her. "How do you feel?" Vivian slowly sat up, wincing. She looked around the room, taking in the rough furnishings, the gun rack on the wall, the few personal items that marked this as a bachelor's home. "Like I was trampled by a horse," she admitted, "but alive thanks to you." "You gave me quite a scare last night," Tyler said. He poured a cup of coffee and brought it to her. "Drink this slowly. When did you last eat?" Vivian wrapped her hands around the tin cup, savoring the warmth. "Yesterday morning, I think, before the stage left Denver." Tyler brought her a plate of food, and she ate with the careful precision of someone who was truly hungry but did not want to appear desperate. As she ate, Tyler studied her in the daylight. She was even lovelier than he had realized, with rich brown hair that fell in waves past her shoulders, high cheekbones, and those remarkable green eyes. Her dress, now dried by the fire, was well made but travel-worn, suggesting she had been on the road for some time. "Where were you headed?" Tyler asked. "Do you have family in Cannon City?" Vivian shook her head. "I was going to Colorado Springs. I have a position there, or I did. I was supposed to start teaching at a school for young ladies next week." Her face fell. "I had all my letters of recommendation in my trunk, all my possessions. Everything is gone now." "We will go into town today, report what happened to the sheriff," Tyler said. "Maybe they recovered some of the passengers' belongings." "Maybe," Vivian said, but she did not sound hopeful. The storm had passed by mid-morning, leaving behind a world transformed by snow. Everything sparkled in the weak winter sunlight, beautiful and treacherous. Tyler hitched his other horse, a gelding named Sam, to his small wagon and helped Vivian climb onto the seat. She moved stiffly, clearly sore from her ordeal. He had given her a pair of his wool socks and wrapped her feet in strips of clean cloth, but she still needed proper boots and warm clothing. The ride into Cannon City took nearly an hour through the snow-clogged roads. Vivian sat quietly beside him, her hands folded in her lap, watching the landscape pass. Tyler found himself acutely aware of her presence, the way her shoulder occasionally brushed his as the wagon jolted over ruts, the soft sound of her breathing in the cold air. "You live alone out there?" Vivian asked eventually. "I do," Tyler confirmed. "My father built that house 30 years ago. He and my mother homesteaded the land. She died when I was 12, and it was just him and me after that until he passed 5 years back." "It must get lonely," Tyler shrugged. "I keep busy. The ranch is not large, but it takes work. I have about 50 head of cattle, a few horses. I do some work in town when I need extra cash, carpentry mostly." "It is a good house," Vivian said softly. "Sturdy. You can tell it was built with care." Something in her tone made Tyler glance at her. "You sound like you know something about houses." "My father was a carpenter back in Pennsylvania," Vivian said. "I grew up watching him work, learning to appreciate good craftsmanship." Her voice grew sad. "He died 2 years ago. My mother followed him 6 months later. That is when I decided to come west, to start over somewhere new." "I am sorry for your loss," Tyler said, and he meant it. He knew the particular ache of being alone in the world. Cannon City was bustling despite the snow, its main street lined with shops and businesses that served both the town's residents and the surrounding ranchers. Tyler guided the wagon to a stop in front of the sheriff's office, a sturdy brick building with barred windows. Inside, Sheriff Harlan Porter sat behind his desk, his boots propped up, reading a newspaper. "Tyler," the sheriff greeted, barely glancing up. "What brings you to town?" "Found this lady half frozen on the road last night," Tyler said, helping Vivian inside. "She was on the stagecoach that got robbed yesterday. Says the bandits killed the driver and guard." That got the sheriff's attention. He dropped his feet to the floor and actually looked at Vivian. "That's so? Well, that is unfortunate, real unfortunate, unfortunate." Vivian repeated, her voice sharp. "2 men are dead and I was left to die in the snow. What are you going to do about it?" Sheriff Porter leaned back in his chair. "Madam, I understand you are upset, but these things happen. The roads can be dangerous. Best I can do is file a report." "Best you can do?" Tyler felt his temper rising. "Harlan, these bandits have been robbing stages for months. When are you going to actually do something?" "Now, Tyler, you know as well as I do that tracking outlaws through these mountains is near impossible," the sheriff said defensively. "I've got a small force and a big territory to cover." "Then maybe you should ride out to where the robbery happened, see if there are any clues, any survivors," Tyler pressed. The sheriff sighed heavily, as if Tyler was asking him to move mountains. "I will send a deputy out tomorrow if the weather holds. That is the best I can offer." Tyler opened his mouth to argue further, but Vivian placed a hand on his arm. "Thank you, Sheriff," she said, her tone cold. "Your dedication to justice is truly inspiring." Outside, Tyler was still fuming. That man would not investigate a crime if it happened on his own doorstep. "I gathered that," Vivian said dryly. "What now?" "Now we get you some proper clothes and boots," Tyler said. "There is a general store down the street. They should have what you need." The general store was warm and crowded, smelling of cinnamon and wood smoke. Mrs. Chen, the proprietor, was a small Chinese woman who had come to Colorado during the gold rush days and stayed, building a thriving business through hard work and shrewd dealing. She took one look at Vivian's inadequate attire and made a disapproving sound. "You need everything," she declared. "Come, I show you." Tyler waited while Mrs. Chen led Vivian to the back of the store where the women's clothing was kept. He wandered the aisles, picking up supplies he actually needed, trying not to think about how much this was going to cost. He was not a rich man by any means, but he was not going to let Vivian go without proper winter clothing. When Vivian emerged, she wore a practical wool dress in deep blue, a warm coat, and sturdy leather boots. Her cheeks were flushed and she looked embarrassed. "This is too much," she said to Tyler. "I cannot let you spend your money on me. I will pay you back, I promise." "We will worry about that later," Tyler said, carrying the bundle of her old clothes to the counter. "Right now, you need these things." Mrs. Chen tallied up the cost, and Tyler paid without flinching, though the amount was more than he usually spent in a month. As they left the store, Vivian walked close beside him, her new boots crunching in the snow. "Thank you," she said quietly, "for everything. You saved my life, and now this. I do not know how I will ever repay you." "You do not owe me anything," Tyler said. "Anyone would have done the same." "I do not think that is true," Vivian said, "but you are kind to say so." They were heading back to the wagon when a well-dressed man in an expensive suit stepped into their path. He was tall and broad-shouldered, with steel-gray hair and cold blue eyes that raked over Vivian with undisguised interest. "Tyler Ingram," the man said. "Fancy seeing you in town." "Mr. Dalton," Tyler replied, his voice carefully neutral. Richard Dalton was one of the wealthiest men in Fremont County, owner of the largest ranch in the area and numerous businesses in town. He was also, in Tyler's opinion, a ruthless bastard who would do anything to expand his empire. For the past year, Dalton had been trying to buy Tyler's land, making increasingly aggressive offers. Tyler had refused every time. "Who is your lovely companion?" Dalton asked, though his eyes never left Vivian. "Miss Vivian Ellis," Tyler said reluctantly. "She was a passenger on the stagecoach that was robbed yesterday. Vivian, this is Richard Dalton." "A pleasure," Dalton said, taking Vivian's hand and holding it a moment too long. "What a terrible ordeal you must have suffered." "If there is anything I can do to assist you, anything at all, please do not hesitate to ask." "Mr. Ingram has been very helpful," Vivian said, gently extracting her hand. "But thank you for your concern." "Yes. Well, Tyler is known for his charity cases," Dalton said with a smile that did not reach his eyes. "Though I must warn you, Miss Ellis, his generosity may not extend to providing long-term shelter. His ranch is quite small and struggling. If you need proper accommodation, I would be happy to offer you a position at my ranch. I am always looking for educated women to help manage my household." Tyler felt anger surge through him, hot and fierce. "Vivian is my guest, Dalton. She is not looking for work." "I was merely offering assistance," Dalton said smoothly. "No offense intended. Though speaking of your ranch, Tyler, my offer still stands. In fact, given the harsh winter we are having, I am prepared to increase it by 10%. A man could do a lot with that kind of money, start fresh somewhere warm." "My answer has not changed," Tyler said. "The ranch is not for sale." "Everything is for sale at the right price," Dalton said. "You should think carefully, Tyler. Accidents happen in weather like this. Cattle freeze, houses burn. It would be a shame if you lost everything because of stubborn pride." The threat was thinly veiled, and Tyler's hands clenched into fists. "Are you threatening me, Dalton?" "Of course not," Dalton said, his smile widening. "I am simply pointing out reality." "Good day, Miss Ellis, Tyler." He tipped his hat and walked away, his expensive boots leaving sharp prints in the snow. Vivian looked at Tyler with concern. "What was that about?" "Dalton wants my land," Tyler said tersely. "He has wanted it for years. There is a stream that runs through my property, good water that never freezes. He thinks if he controls that water, he can force the other small ranchers in the area to sell to him too." "Will he really try to hurt you to get it?" Tyler helped her into the wagon. "I do not know. Probably. He is not a man who likes being told no." They rode in silence for a while, both lost in thought. Tyler was troubled by the encounter, not for himself but for what it might mean for Vivian. Dalton was not a man who forgot a slight, and he had clearly taken an interest in her. That was dangerous. "What will you do?" Vivian asked eventually. "About Colorado Springs, I mean, your teaching position." Vivian was quiet for a moment. "I do not know. I was supposed to arrive 3 days from now. Even if I left immediately, I would be late. And without my letters of recommendation, I have no way to prove my qualifications. They will have moved on to another candidate by now." "You could stay," Tyler heard himself say. "At the ranch, I mean, just until you figure out what to do next." Vivian turned to look at him, her green eyes searching his face. "I cannot impose on you like that." "It is not an imposition," Tyler said. "The house has plenty of room, and to be honest, I could use the help. Winter is the slow season, but there is still work to be done. I am not much of a cook, and the place could use a woman's touch." "Are you offering me a job?" Vivian asked, a smile playing at the corners of her mouth. "I suppose I am," Tyler said. "Room and board plus whatever wages you think are fair. At least until spring, when the road's clear and you can make other plans." Vivian considered this. Tyler tried not to show how much he wanted her to say yes, how the thought of her leaving already felt like a loss. "All right," Vivian said finally, "but I insist on earning my keep. I am a good cook, and I know how to keep house. My mother taught me well." Relief flooded through Tyler, more intense than it should have been for such a simple agreement. "Then it is settled." The days that followed fell into an easy rhythm that surprised them both. Vivian proved to be an excellent cook, transforming Tyler's simple provisions into meals that were actually worth looking forward to. She cleaned and organized the house, hung curtains she sewed from fabric she found in a trunk, and generally made the place feel like a home rather than just a shelter. Tyler found himself hurrying through his morning chores so he could return to the house, to the warmth and the smell of bread baking and the sound of Vivian humming as she worked. They talked as they worked side by side, sharing stories of their pasts, their hopes, their fears. Tyler learned that Vivian had always wanted to teach, that she loved reading, and had brought one precious book with her from Pennsylvania, a volume of poetry that had been her mother's. Vivian learned that Tyler had once dreamed of being an architect, of designing beautiful buildings, but had set aside those dreams to care for his ailing father. "You could still do it," Vivian said one evening as they sat by the fire, Tyler repairing a harness while Vivian mended his shirts. "Design buildings, I mean. It is not too late." Tyler shook his head. "That was a young man's dream. I am a rancher now." "You are 30 years old, not ancient," Vivian said. "And the way you talk about it, your eyes light up. That dream is not dead." "Maybe," Tyler said, uncomfortable with how clearly she saw through him. 2 weeks after Vivian's arrival, Tyler rode into town for supplies and returned with troubling news. The stagecoach company had sent representatives to investigate the robbery, and they had found the bodies of the driver and guard, but no sign of the other passengers or any of the stolen goods. The bandits had vanished into the mountains like ghosts. "They asked about you," Tyler told Vivian. "Wanted to know if you had survived. I told them you were staying here recovering." "Did they seem suspicious?" Vivian asked. They seemed relieved. Apparently, one of the other passengers was the son of a wealthy mine owner from Denver. His family is offering a substantial reward for information leading to his safe return. Vivian's face paled. "I remember him. A young man, maybe 20. He was kind to me during the journey, made sure I had a seat near the stove. You do not think he is still alive, do you?" "I do not know," Tyler admitted. "But if he is probably being held for ransom." That night, Vivian had nightmares, crying out in her sleep. Tyler woke to the sound and went to her, sitting on the edge of the bed and taking her hand. "You are safe," he murmured. "I am here. You are safe." Vivian's eyes opened, glazed with tears and terror. Then she seemed to realize where she was and some of the fear faded. "I am sorry. I dreamed I was back in the snow, freezing, and no one came." "I came," Tyler said, "and I am not going to let anything happen to you." Vivian sat up, and without thinking, Tyler put his arm around her shoulders. She leaned against him, and they sat that way for a long time, the fire burning low, the wind howling outside. Tyler was acutely aware of her warmth, the scent of her hair, the way she fit perfectly against his side. Something was growing between them, something that went beyond gratitude or companionship. Christmas came, and with it a fresh blanket of snow. Tyler chopped down a small pine tree and brought it inside, and Vivian decorated it with strings of popcorn and paper ornaments she cut from old newspapers. On Christmas morning, Tyler gave her a new shawl he had bought from Mrs. Chen, soft wool in a deep green that matched her eyes. Vivian gave him a shirt she had sewn in secret, the stitching perfect, the fit exact. "How did you know my measurements?" Tyler asked, touched beyond words. Vivian blushed. "I may have measured one of your other shirts while you were out doing chores." They cooked a feast together. A chicken Tyler had bought in town, potatoes, carrots, and a dried apple pie that Vivian made from his mother's old recipe book. As they ate, Tyler found himself thinking that this was the best Christmas he had had in years, maybe ever. Vivian's laughter filled the house, warming it more effectively than any fire. After dinner, as they sat by the hearth, Vivian said, "I have been thinking about what comes next." Tyler's heart sank. He had known this conversation was coming, but he was not ready for it. "And I wrote to the school in Colorado Springs, explained what happened," Vivian said. "I received a reply yesterday when you were in town. They have filled the position." "I am sorry," Tyler said, and he was, though a selfish part of him was glad she would not be leaving. "I am not," Vivian said, looking at him directly. "I have been happier here these past few weeks than I have been in a very long time. If the offer still stands, I would like to stay. Properly, I mean, as your housekeeper." "Vivian," Tyler said carefully, "you should know that people in town are talking. A single woman living with a single man, it is not exactly proper." "I know," Vivian said, "but I find I do not care very much what people think. Do you?" Tyler looked at her, at the firelight dancing in her hair, at the hope in something else, something deeper in her green eyes. "No," he said. "I do not care at all." Vivian smiled, and it was like the sun coming out. Tyler realized with startling clarity that he was falling in love with her, had probably been falling since the moment he found her in the snow. The realization should have terrified him, but instead, it felt right, inevitable. The new year arrived, 1874 dawning cold and clear. Tyler and Vivian settled into their life together, the boundaries between employer and employee blurring into something much more complex. They worked side by side during the day, shared meals and conversation in the evenings, and sometimes, when the nights were very cold, Tyler would wake to find that Vivian had crept from her bed to sit by the fire, unable to sleep. He would join her, and they would talk in whispers until dawn. It was during one of these late-night conversations that Vivian told him about her dreams, about wanting to open a school someday, a place where children could learn regardless of their family's ability to pay. Education should not be a privilege, she said passionately. Every child deserves the chance to better themselves. You would be a wonderful teacher, Tyler said. The way you explain things, you have a gift for it. Maybe someday, Vivian said. Though I confess I am quite content here for now. Are you? Tyler asked. Truly. Because you gave up a lot, the position in Colorado Springs, the chance at a real career. Vivian turned to him, her face serious in the firelight. Tyler, I am going to tell you something, and I hope you will believe me. The job in Colorado Springs was an escape, a way to leave behind a place where everything reminded me of loss. But this, here with you, this feels like coming home. I know we have not known each other long, but I cannot imagine being anywhere else. Tyler's breath caught. Vivian, I need to tell you something too. These past weeks, having you here, I have been happier than I have been in years. You make me want things I thought I had given up on. A future. A family. Someone to share this life with. Tyler, Vivian whispered, and there was everything in the way she said his name. He leaned forward, giving her every chance to pull away, but she did not. Their lips met in a kiss that was gentle at first, tentative, then deepening into something that spoke of need and longing and hope. When they finally broke apart, both were breathing hard, and Vivian's eyes shone with tears. I love you, Tyler said, the words tumbling out. I know it is too soon and I should not say it, but I do. I love you, Vivian. It is not too soon, Vivian said, her hand cupping his cheek. I love you too. I think I have since you wrapped your coat around me and promised I was safe. They kissed again, and this time it was Tyler who had tears in his eyes. He had thought he would spend his life alone, that love was not meant for him. But here was Vivian, this brave, beautiful woman who had literally fallen into his path, and she loved him back. Marry me, Tyler said. I know I do not have much to offer. The ranch is small, the house is modest, and I cannot promise you an easy life. But I can promise to love you every day for the rest of my life. I can promise to do everything in my power to make you happy. Vivian laughed, a sound of pure joy. Yes, yes, of course I will marry you. They planned a simple wedding for the end of January. Just enough time to have the band's raid, and for Tyler to speak with the preacher. Vivian sewed herself a dress from cream-colored wool, simple but elegant, and Tyler bought a new suit from the general store, the first new clothes he had owned in years. But 3 days before the wedding, trouble arrived in the form of Richard Dalton. Tyler was in the barn, repairing a stall door when he heard the sound of horses approaching. He stepped outside to see Dalton dismounting, flanked by 2 rough-looking men Tyler recognized as part of Dalton's crew. Tyler, Dalton greeted. I heard the news. You are getting married. Congratulations. Thank you, Tyler said warily. Was there something you needed, Dalton? I came to make you one final offer, Dalton said. For your land. $15,000, that is more than fair, more than this place is worth. Take the money, marry your girl, and start fresh somewhere else. The ranch is not for sale, Tyler said firmly. Not for $15,000, not for any amount. This is my home, Dalton. My father built it, and I intend to keep it. Dalton's expression hardened. You are making a mistake, Tyler. A man with a wife has responsibilities. What if something were to happen to you? How would she manage alone? Is that another threat? Tyler asked, his temper rising. It is a reality check, Dalton said. Accidents happen, and I hear your future bride had her own accident, nearly froze to death. It would be a shame if something like that happened again. Tyler moved fast, grabbing Dalton by the front of his expensive coat and slamming him against the barn wall. Dalton's men reached for their guns, but Tyler did not care. "If you go anywhere near Vivian, if you so much as look at her wrong, I will kill you," Tyler said, his voice deadly calm. "Do you understand me?" Dalton's eyes widened, and for the first time Tyler saw actual fear there. "You are insane." "Maybe," Tyler said, "but I mean every word. Now get off my land." He released Dalton, who stumbled back, smoothing his coat with shaking hands. "You will regret this, Tyler, I promise you that." "I already regret not throwing you out on your ass months ago," Tyler said. "Leave. Now." Dalton and his men mounted up and rode away, but Tyler knew this was not over. He stood watching until they disappeared, then turned to find Vivian standing in the doorway of the house, her face pale. "I heard shouting," she said. "What happened?" Tyler told her, leaving nothing out. Vivian listened, her expression growing more troubled. "Maybe you should sell," she said quietly, "if it means keeping you safe." "No," Tyler said firmly. "I will not be bullied off my own land, and I will not let Dalton think he can threaten the people I love to get what he wants." "Then what do we do?" Vivian asked. Tyler pulled her into his arms, holding her close. "We get married as planned, we live our lives, and we watch our backs." The wedding took place on a Sunday afternoon at the small church in Cannon City. The congregation was sparse, mostly neighbors and a few people from town who knew Tyler. Mrs. Chen came, bringing a beautiful silk ribbon for Vivian's hair. The sheriff was notably absent, but Tyler had not expected him anyway. Vivian looked radiant in her cream wool dress, her dark hair swept up and decorated with Mrs. Chen's ribbon. Tyler's hands shook as he slipped the simple gold band onto her finger, a ring that had belonged to his mother. When the preacher pronounced them man and wife, and Tyler kissed Vivian for the first time as her husband, he felt a completeness he had never known before. They held a small celebration at the ranch, with food and drink, and even some music provided by a neighbor who played the fiddle. As the sun set and their guests departed, Tyler and Vivian were finally alone. They stood on the porch watching the stars come out, Vivian leaning back against Tyler's chest, his arms wrapped around her waist. "Mrs. Ingram," Tyler murmured against her hair. "I like the sound of that." "So do I," Vivian said, turning in his arms to kiss him. "So do I." Their wedding night was tender and sweet, filled with whispered words and gentle touches. Tyler had never been with a woman before, and Vivian admitted she had not either. They learned together, fumbling and laughing and finally finding a rhythm that felt right. Afterward, they lay tangled together, the moonlight streaming through the window, and Vivian traced patterns on Tyler's chest. "I never thought I could be this happy," she said. "After my parents died, I thought I would always carry that sadness, but you have given me joy again." "You have done the same for me," Tyler said, kissing her forehead. "I love you, Vivian. I love you too." The winter passed peacefully, Tyler and Vivian settling into married life. They worked together during the day, Tyler teaching Vivian about ranching, Vivian bringing order and warmth to every corner of their home. At night, they lay in each other's arms, talking about their dreams for the future. "I want to expand the herd," Tyler said one evening. "Maybe get some sheep too. Wool fetches a good price." "And I want to plant a garden in the spring," Vivian said. "Vegetables and flowers, lots of flowers. Anything you want," Tyler promised, but their peace was shattered in early March. Tyler had ridden into town for supplies, leaving Vivian at home with strict instructions to keep the doors locked and the rifle close. He should have known better than to leave her alone, should have sensed that Dalton was planning something. He returned to find smoke rising from his property. Terror seized him, and he urged Clementine into a gallop. As the house came into view, relief flooded through him. The house was untouched, but his barn was engulfed in flames and his cattle were scattered, driven through broken fence lines. Vivian ran out of the house, her face streaked with tears and soot. "Tyler, thank God you are back. Men came, 3 of them. They set the fire and spooked the cattle. I tried to stop them, but there were too many." Tyler dismounted and pulled her into his arms, checking her frantically for injuries. "Are you hurt? Did they touch you?" "No, I am fine," Vivian said. "I fired a warning shot and they ran. But Tyler, the barn, all your tools and feed." Tyler looked at the inferno that had once been his barn, rage and helplessness warring inside him. He knew who was responsible. Dalton had made good on his threats. With Vivian's help, Tyler worked through the night to contain the fire and round up his scattered cattle. By morning, he had saved most of his herd, but the barn was a total loss. He stood in the smoking ruins, calculating what it would cost to rebuild, knowing he did not have that kind of money. "We will rebuild," Vivian said firmly, standing beside him. "We will do it together." "It will take everything we have," Tyler said. "We might not make it through until spring." "Then we will find a way," Vivian said. "I am not giving up, and neither are you." Tyler looked at his wife, at the determination in her eyes, and felt his own resolve harden. "You are right. Dalton thinks he can break me, but he is wrong." They went to town the next day and filed a complaint with the sheriff. Porter listened with barely concealed boredom, took notes, and promised to investigate. Tyler knew nothing would come of it. But word of the fire spread, and to Tyler's surprise, help arrived. His neighbors, small ranchers who were also resisting Dalton's attempts to buy them out, showed up with tools and lumber. Within a week, they had framed a new barn, smaller than the old one but sturdy. Mrs. Chen donated supplies from her store, refusing payment. Even the preacher took up a collection at Sunday service. "People know what Dalton is doing," one of the neighbors, an older man named Jacob, told Tyler. "They are tired of being pushed around. You standing up to him, it gives the rest of us courage." Tyler was moved beyond words. He had always kept to himself, had not realized he was part of a community that would rally around him. Vivian organized meals for all the workers, turning their property into a hub of activity and friendship. Through it all, Tyler watched Vivian blossom. She had a natural way with people, making everyone feel welcome, remembering names and stories. The other ranchers' wives took to her immediately, and soon she was invited to quilting bees and social gatherings. Tyler loved watching her laugh with the other women, loved seeing her become part of the fabric of their community. By April, the new barn was complete, and Tyler had purchased new tools and seed for spring planting. He also did something else. He rode to the county seat in Pueblo and filed a formal complaint against Richard Dalton, providing evidence and testimony about the threats and the fire. The county prosecutor promised to look into it, though Tyler was not holding his breath. Spring arrived with a rush of green across the plains. Vivian planted her garden, her hands in the soil, her face glowing with happiness. Tyler watched her from the porch and marveled at how much his life had changed. A year ago, he had been alone, resigned to his solitude. Now he had a wife he loved more than anything, a home full of warmth and laughter, and a future that looked bright. In May, Vivian came to him with news that made his heart soar. "I think I am with child," she said, her eyes bright with joy and a little fear. Tyler swept her into his arms, spinning her around. "Are you certain?" "Fairly certain," Vivian said, laughing. "We should know for sure in a few weeks." The doctor in Cannon City confirmed it in June. Vivian was indeed pregnant, the baby due in late December or early January. Tyler was overwhelmed with emotion, terrified and thrilled in equal measure. He immediately set about making improvements to the house, adding a second room that would serve as a nursery. Vivian bloomed with pregnancy, her happiness radiating. She continued her work around the ranch, though Tyler tried to make her take it easier. She refused to be coddled, insisting she felt wonderful. The summer passed in a haze of work and preparation. Tyler expanded his herd, made repairs to the ranch, and even took on some carpentry jobs in town to earn extra money for the baby. Vivian sewed tiny clothes, knitted blankets, and prepared the nursery with loving care. It was in August that the second blow fell. Tyler was working in the fields when he saw riders approaching. His hand went instinctively to his rifle, but he relaxed when he recognized the county prosecutor and two deputies. "Mr. Ingram," the prosecutor greeted, "I have news about your complaint against Richard Dalton." Hope surged in Tyler's chest. "You are arresting him." "Not exactly," the prosecutor said carefully. "We investigated your claims, and while we found evidence of suspicious activity, nothing directly ties Dalton to the fire. However, we did uncover something else. Dalton has been involved in some illegal land dealings, forging documents to claim water rights. He is being charged with fraud." "Will he go to jail?" Tyler asked. "Probably not," the prosecutor admitted. "Men like Dalton have expensive lawyers. But the charges will tie him up in court for months, maybe years. And the scandal has already damaged his reputation. Several of his business partners have pulled out. He is not in a position to threaten you anymore." It was not the justice Tyler had hoped for, but it was something. Dalton's power was broken, at least for now. The fall was glorious, the aspens turning gold against the blue Colorado sky. Vivian grew round with their child, and Tyler found himself constantly touching her belly, feeling the baby kick. They talked endlessly about names, about what kind of parents they wanted to be, about the life they would build together. In early December, the first snow fell, and Vivian went into labor. It was a long, difficult birth that lasted through the night and into the next day. Tyler stayed by her side the entire time, holding her hand, wiping her brow, whispering encouragement. When the baby finally arrived, a healthy boy with a strong set of lungs, Tyler wept with relief and joy. "We will call him James," Vivian said, cradling their son. "After my father." "James Tyler Ingram," Tyler said, stroking the baby's downy head. "It is perfect." The days after James's birth were a blur of sleepless nights and overwhelming love. Tyler discovered depths of feeling he had not known he possessed, a fierce protectiveness and tenderness for this tiny person they had created. Vivian was a natural mother, patient and loving, even when exhausted. As winter settled in, they celebrated their first anniversary and James's first Christmas. Tyler built a cradle for his son, carving intricate designs into the wood, pouring all his love into the craftsmanship. Vivian made ornaments for the tree, just as she had the year before, but this time with a baby in her arms. "Remember last Christmas?" Vivian said as they sat by the fire on Christmas Eve, James sleeping peacefully in his cradle. "We had just admitted we loved each other." "Best Christmas of my life," Tyler said. "Until this one. We have come so far," Vivian mused. "Sometimes I think about that day in the snow, how close I came to dying, and then you found me. You saved my life in every way that matters." "You saved mine too," Tyler said. "I was just existing before you, going through the motions. You taught me how to live again, how to hope." They kissed, a sweet, lingering kiss full of promise and gratitude. The years that followed were not always easy, but they were good. The ranch prospered under their combined efforts, growing slowly but steadily. Tyler took on a partner, Jacob, the neighbor who had helped rebuild the barn, and together they expanded their operations. Vivian started teaching children in the area, holding classes in their home during the winter months when farm work was light. James grew into a bright, curious boy who loved the ranch and the animals. When he was 3, Vivian gave birth to twins, a girl they named Rose and another boy they called Samuel. The house that had once felt too large for one lonely man now rang with the sounds of children's laughter. Richard Dalton's empire crumbled over the years. The fraud charges, combined with bad investments and his damaged reputation, led to bankruptcy. He left Colorado in disgrace, and Tyler heard he died a few years later in California, alone and forgotten. Tyler felt no satisfaction in his downfall, only relief that the threat was finally gone. Tyler and Vivian grew old together, their love deepening with each passing year. They built the life they had dreamed of, adding rooms to the house as their family grew, planting orchards and gardens, raising cattle and horses. Tyler never did become an architect, but he designed and built several structures in Cannon City, including a school where Vivian taught for many years. Their children grew up strong and happy, going on to have families of their own. James took over the ranch, expanding it further. Rose became a doctor, one of the first women physicians in Colorado. Samuel became a lawyer, dedicating himself to protecting small ranchers from men like Dalton. On their 25th wedding anniversary, Tyler and Vivian stood on the porch of their ranch house, now much larger and grander than the simple cabin it had once been, and looked out over the land they had built together. "You have any regrets?" Tyler asked, his arm around Vivian's still slender waist. Vivian leaned into him, her hair now streaked with silver but her green eyes as bright as ever. "Not a single one. You." "Only that I did not find you sooner," Tyler said. "You found me exactly when you were supposed to," Vivian said. "That day in the snow, that was fate. We were always meant to be together." Tyler kissed her, tasting the truth of her words. They had been through so much together, faced hardships and triumphs, raised children and built a legacy. And through it all, their love had been the constant, the foundation on which everything else was built. As the sun set over the Colorado plains, painting the sky in shades of gold and pink, Tyler Ingram counted his blessings. He had a wife he adored, children and grandchildren who filled his life with joy, land he was proud to call his own, and a community he was part of. He had everything he had ever wanted and so much more than he had ever dreamed possible. And it had all started with a lonely cowboy finding a woman shivering in the snow, making a choice to help rather than ride on, and opening his heart to love. The years continued to pass, marked by the changing of seasons and the milestones of family life. Tyler watched his grandchildren grow up on the ranch, teaching them the same lessons his father had taught him about hard work, integrity, and respect for the land. Vivian continued teaching until she was 60, touching the lives of hundreds of children over the decades. Their love story became something of a legend in Cannon City. People spoke of how Tyler had found Vivian in a blizzard and known immediately she was meant for him, how they had stood up to powerful men and built something lasting through sheer determination and love. Young couples sought their advice, wanting to know the secret to a long and happy marriage. "There is no secret," Vivian would say. "You choose each other every single day. You face problems together. You forgive quickly and love generously. And you never let a day go by without saying 'I love you,'" Tyler would add, smiling at his wife. As they entered their 70s, Tyler and Vivian slowed down, letting their children and grandchildren take over more of the ranch work. They spent their days in gentler pursuits, reading together, walking through Vivian's beloved gardens and sitting on the porch watching the sun set over the mountains. Tyler's hands, once so strong and capable, became gnarled with arthritis, but Vivian held them anyway, massaging the aching joints. Vivian's eyesight faded, but Tyler read aloud to her every evening, the same books they had loved throughout their marriage. On their 50th wedding anniversary, their children organized a grand celebration. People came from all over Colorado, some traveling for days to honor the couple who had become pillars of their community. There was food and music and dancing, and Tyler, despite his aching joints, took Vivian in his arms and waltzed with her as he had on their wedding day. 50 years, Vivian said, her head on his shoulder. Can you believe it? Best 50 years of my life, Tyler said. Here is to 50 more. Vivian laughed, the sound still as bright and joyful as when she was young. I will hold you to that. But time is relentless, and eventually it caught up with them. Tyler fell ill in the winter of 1924, a bad chest cold that turned into pneumonia. He fought it stubbornly, refusing to stay in bed, insisting he had work to do. Vivian nursed him with the same fierce determination she brought to everything. But on a cold February morning, Tyler passed away peacefully in his sleep, Vivian's hand in his. The funeral was held in the same church where they had married 50 years earlier. The building was packed, with people standing outside in the cold to pay their respects. Tyler Ingram had been a good man, a fair man, someone who had made his corner of the world better. He was mourned by many, but no one mourned him more than Vivian. She stood at his graveside, dry-eyed and dignified as they lowered him into the ground. Her children, worried about her, tried to convince her to come stay with one of them. But Vivian insisted on staying at the ranch, in the home she and Tyler had built together. She lived for 5 more years, tending her gardens, teaching the occasional student, and spending time with her ever-growing family. She spoke of Tyler often, always in the present tense, as if he were just in the next room. And perhaps, in a way, he was. His presence was everywhere in that house, in the careful joinery of the furniture he had made, in the solid walls he had built, in the land he had tended with such care. Vivian passed away in her sleep on a spring morning in 1929, surrounded by flowers from her garden. She was 81 years old. Her children found her with a smile on her face, her hand resting on Tyler's pillow, as if reaching for him one last time. They buried her next to Tyler, under a large cottonwood tree that they had planted together on their 10th anniversary. The headstone was simple, bearing both their names and the inscription, "Together in life, together in eternity." The ranch stayed in the family for generations, each successive Ingram caring for it as Tyler and Vivian had, with love and dedication. The story of the lonely cowboy who found his heart's desire in a blizzard was passed down through the years, a reminder that love can be found in the most unexpected places, that one act of kindness can change the course of a life. And sometimes, on winter nights when the snow falls soft and thick over the Colorado plains, people swear they can see 2 figures walking hand in hand across the ranch, their laughter carried on the wind. Whether it is memory or something more, no one can say. But the love of Tyler and Vivian Ingram endures, a testament to the power of 2 souls finding each other against all odds and choosing, every single day, to build a life together. Their great-grandchildren still live on the ranch, now a prosperous operation spanning thousands of acres. The original house, the cabin where Tyler brought Vivian that snowy December night, has been preserved as a museum of sorts, filled with artifacts from their lives. Visitors can see Vivian's first dress, the one Tyler bought her from Mrs. Chen. They can see the cradle Tyler carved for James, the books Vivian used to teach with, and photographs documenting 50 years of love and family. In Cannon City, there is a school named after Vivian Ellis Ingram, honoring her decades of service to education. A statue of her stands in the town square, a book in one hand, the other hand extended in welcome. And nearby, there is a small plaque commemorating Tyler Ingram, cattleman, carpenter, and devoted husband, who helped build the community that still thrives today. But perhaps the greatest legacy of Tyler and Vivian is not in buildings or land, or even in their numerous descendants. It is in the example they set of how to love completely, how to face adversity with courage, how to build something meaningful from nothing but determination and hope. Their story began with a chance encounter in a snowstorm, a moment when one person chose compassion over convenience. Tyler could have ridden past that huddled figure in the snow. He could have convinced himself someone else would help, that he had enough problems of his own, but he stopped. He helped, and in doing so, he found not just a woman to save but a soulmate to share his life with. Vivian could have moved on after recovering, could have pursued her teaching career in Colorado Springs, or returned east where life might have been easier. But she stayed. She chose a hard life on a remote ranch with a man who had little to offer but his heart. And she never regretted it for a moment. Together, they proved that love is not about grand gestures or perfect circumstances. It is about showing up every day and choosing each other. It is about facing storms together, both literal and metaphorical, and coming through stronger on the other side. It is about building a home, not just a house, and filling it with laughter and warmth and family. The generations that followed learned from their example. Marriages in the Ingram family were known for their longevity and happiness. The family gathered every year on the anniversary of Tyler finding Vivian, a tradition that started with their children and continued with their grandchildren and great-grandchildren. They would stand in the spot where Tyler had found her, now marked with a simple stone, and share the story again, keeping the memory alive. And each time the story was told, it ended the same way. Tyler, a lonely cowboy facing a blizzard, made the choice that changed everything. He found her shivering in the snow near town, and he led her home, not just to his house but to his heart, and she led him to hers. And together, they built a love that would last beyond their lifetimes, an inspiration for all who came after. The ranch still stands, testament to their labor and love. The gardens Vivian planted still bloom every spring, tended now by her descendants. The barn Tyler built with help from his neighbors still shelters cattle through harsh winters. And the house, expanded and updated over the years but still recognizably the same structure, still stands strong against the Colorado winds. On quiet evenings when the work is done and the family gathers on the porch, someone will always share a memory of Tyler and Vivian. How Grandpa Tyler would sneak Grandma Vivian wildflowers. How Grandma Vivian would pack Grandpa Tyler's favorite lunch when he had to work far from the house. How they would sit together in their rocking chairs, holding hands, even after 50 years of marriage. These stories, passed down through generations, keep Tyler and Vivian alive in the hearts of their family. And they serve as a reminder of what really matters in life. Not wealth or status or power, but love and family and the courage to choose kindness even when it is not convenient. The love story of Tyler Ingram and Vivian Ellis began on a cold December night in 1873, when a cowboy made the simple choice to help someone in need. It flourished through years of hard work and mutual devotion. It endured through trials and triumphs, through the raising of children and the building of a legacy. And it continues still in the lives they touched, the family they created, and the example they set. Their story proves that the best love stories are not about perfection, but about perseverance. About two imperfect people who choose to face life together. About finding someone who feels like home and having the courage to build that home together, one day at a time. Tyler and Vivian Ingram lived long, full lives. They knew hardship and loss, but they knew far more joy and love. They raised good children who became good people. They built a prosperous ranch from almost nothing. They earned the respect and affection of their community. But most importantly, they loved each other, completely and unreservedly from that first night in the snow until their last breath, and beyond. And so their story ends, not with sadness but with celebration, because they had everything that truly matters. They had each other. They had family. They had a home filled with love. And they had a lifetime of memories, of moments both ordinary and extraordinary that added up to a life well lived. From a chance encounter in a blizzard to a love that spanned 50 years and beyond, Tyler and Vivian proved that sometimes the best things in life come when we least expect them, in forms we never imagined. All it takes is an open heart, a willing spirit, and the courage to say yes when fate comes calling. Their legacy lives on in Cannon City, Colorado, in the ranch that still bears their name, in the school where Vivian's dedication to education is remembered, in the community they helped build. But most of all, it lives on in the hearts of those who knew them and those who know their story, because love like theirs does not die. It transforms, it inspires, it endures. And somewhere, in the wind that sweeps across the Colorado plains, in the snow that falls soft on winter nights, in the spring flowers that bloom in Vivian's gardens, their love continues, eternal and unchanging. The lonely cowboy found more than a woman that December night. He found his purpose, his partner, his reason for everything. And the shivering woman in the snow found more than rescue. She found home, hope, and a love that would define the rest of her days. Together, Tyler and Vivian Ingram showed the world what love truly means. And that lesson, that legacy, will never fade. It lives on, as enduring as the mountains, as constant as the stars, a light in the darkness for all who seek it. Their story, beginning in hardship and ending in triumph, remains a testament to the power of love to transform lives, to build futures, and to create something beautiful from the simplest of beginnings. And if you listen closely on quiet Colorado nights, you might just hear it, carried on the wind, the echo of a promise made long ago. Two souls, finding each other in the snow, choosing love and living happily ever after together for all time.